So for the graphics card, I actually got two RTX 2080 Ti's with the Unveiling. Just want to make sure it'll fit. So
welcome back to Rigz, IGN's PC build-off show, where two PC enthusiasts face off to see who can build the better rig.
usually 32 is fine for, your typical build, but this is not your typical build.
Son of a... Nothing's easy, guys. Nothing's easy.
I'm Akeem, and I'll be your host. Today, the restraints are coming off, and we're cranking everything up to 11. We're going all out with unethically powerful gaming rigs, obscene budgets, and a brand spanking new secret component. And don't forget to stick around at the very end of this episode because we're giving away details on how you, our viewers, can win the machines featured on this show. You got all of that? Well then let's get into it. This is IGN's Rigz. Now, last time on Rigz, our contestants were given a budget of $2,000 to build the best PC they could. Now, after an arduous build and close scrutiny from our judge,
frankly, I would have liked to see more.
Harsh, but okay.
roasted. Stella's graphics card is what set her over the edge for her to clinch the win.
Yes! I just ate a confetti. That's fine, right?
How will our judge rule on today's build? Well, let's meet him right now. IGN's tech editor, Bo Moore. All right, Bo, walk us through what our contestants are dealing with.
Welcome back, contestants.
It's so good to be back here. I'm super excited.
Thanks for the chance to redeem myself.
Today, you will be building an extreme gaming PC. I want to see everything turned up to 11. 4K graphics, ray tracing enabled, all your graphics settings cranked up to the max. I want to be able to fry an egg on the case. You get the picture. An absolute face melter. Now, I'll be taking everything into account. Your hardware choices, the benchmarks, thermals, future-proofing, cable management, budget allocation, and some nice aesthetics wouldn't hurt either. Your budget is $7,000. Now, this is effectively no holds barred, so use it as you see fit. And that includes the mystery component, which must be incorporated into your build. Speaking of which, they should be arriving at your door right now. Contestants, you may open your packages.
Ooh, I've heard about these. Aren't they like super fast?
That is a lot of hard drive.
What you're holding is an Intel Optane 905P SSD, 1.5 terabytes to be specific. These SSDs are known for delivering high read and write speeds, coupled with low latency and long-lasting endurance. Now remember, this part counts towards your overall budget, so choose wisely. And no tips from me this time. This isn't your first rodeo.
Dan, are you ready for round two?
No time for banter, Stella.
All right, folks, well, we have our budget of $7,000 and our mystery component, an Optane 905 SSD at 1.5 terabytes. And with that, let's get to the rigs.
Comes time for case. We got the Thermaltake Core P3 TG Snow Edition, which has a glass pane on one side and is just open on 3 sides, which I think is striking. And this case will cost you about $140.
So I got this premium case from Corsair, and it's part of the Crystal series, and it's the 570X, and I love the tempered glass, and I got this because I really like the fact that you're able to see everything happening within the case, and it's supposed to be really compatible with RGB lights, so I'm definitely going to be incorporating that, and yeah, I just thought it looked really sleek. Ooh, there we go.
We need need a 850 watt power supply. This is a Lead X3 ARGB Gold that comes in at $200.
So the next really big component to this PC build is this power supply. And this one is a 1000 watt power supply, which I got because if I decide to overclock my CPU, it'll give it the extra juice it needs. Also, I built this with an SLI in mind, which I'll get into in a minute. And this will basically give all the power that I could ever need with this PC.
Well, now that we've got the case in a presentable state here, it's time to start working on the motherboard and the CPU and all those good things. This here is the Asus ROG Strix Z490E gaming motherboard. It comes in at $300. So the main reason we went with this one is that it has support for the latest generation of Intel processors, which we need, and also it's real nice.
So for $397, I got this motherboard, which is the Republic of Gamers Maximus 12 Hero. A big reason why I got this is because it looks really cool, but it also has some really good options for overclocking my CPU and RAM, which I discussed doing earlier, and it has dual Ethernet ports.
We've got Intel's finest processor. It is the 10th generation Core i9-10900K. This thing is $530. It is a monster of a processor. It has 10 cores and 20 threads, which I believe is up from 16 and 8 from the previous generation. It is pretty much the best desktop processor you can buy right now. CPU is in.
This core processor ran me at about $529, and even though it was pricey, I got it because it's the best thing out for desktop gaming right now. It just came out, and honestly, since I'm going for a longevity build, it's gonna last me a while, so that was my best bet.
Next up is the RAM. We have 32 gigabytes of Corsair Vengeance Pro RAM, DDR4, clocked at 3200 megahertz. Corsair is a very high-end and reliable brand, and it has pretty lights. And that comes in at $159. All right.
So for the memory, I chose the Corsair Dominator Platinum RGB, and it is 64 gigabytes. So it's 4 sticks of 16 gigabyte RAM. Beautiful. Okay, cool.
With a high-end CPU, you've got to treat it right. So we got a Cooler Master Master Liquid ML360P Silver Edition, all-in-one cooler. And that's a $220 cooler. All right, we do a pea-sized glob of thermal paste right in the middle of your CPU. I'm just gonna plop the cooler right down on top of it, let the weight of the thing smush the thermal paste out for you, which is one of many different ways of doing it. I think Henry Cavill spread it manually.
So the next piece, which is pretty important, is our CPU cooler, which I chose the Corsair H100i RGB Platinum. And it's liquid cooling, which is fantastic because it's going to do a great job of keeping the CPU cool, and it's also quiet, so the fans aren't going to be super loud every time the CPU has to cool down. So in trying to make my PC a little more RGB friendly, I picked up a Master Fan MF120 Halo, and it's this pretty rainbow fan, and thought why not make it pretty? So that's my reasoning for this one.
And then over here we have not one but two RTX 2080 Ti's, which are each $1,300 worth of graphics card. So that's how you can use up a big budget on a PC, is put two of these things in it and it goes through the roof real fast. Well, minor glitch. Son of a...
So for the graphics card, I actually got two RTX 2080 Ti's. Each card comes with 11 gigabytes of GDDR6 VRAM, and what these two cards will do with the Unveiling is it'll split the workload of the graphics card in two, which is great because the whole point of this build is to make things a little faster. I'll make sure it'll fit. So
Yeah, this is solvable, but I have to move the cooler over a little bit because it obstructs the graphics card. Son of a diddly. Nothing's easy, guys, nothing's easy. Yes. Yes. 2 graphics cards. And here's a SLI link bridge to get the most out of both of them working together. Like a glove. All right.
okay, so I got the 4-slot bridge, but that doesn't fit, so I'm gonna have to get a 3-slot bridge. Hopefully that doesn't count against me too much. My heart was in the right place, right?
And here's our secret ingredient today with the Intel Optane SSD 9, which according to Intel is among the most reliable SSDs you can buy with any money, which, related note, this is $2,100. So we're really taking the kids' gloves off on the budget here, blowing the doors off the place. The Optane is in.
So our mystery piece is this Intel Optane SSD 9, which is a 1.5 terabyte SSD drive, and it boots up everything very quickly. If you put your OS on it, your computer will start super quick, and if you put games on it, your games won't have much loading time. This PC is definitely packed.
Pretty slick case, I think. Definitely a looker, and I think there's a better than even chance that when we plug it in and push the power button, it's gonna turn on.
Okay, so this is my final build, and now it's ready to get sent off for benchmarks. I feel really good about it, except for the SLI bridge mess up, but I'm hoping it doesn't count against me too much, because for the benchmarks, they're still gonna use an SLI bridge for it, so they'll still be able to get all the effects of the 2 RTX 2080 Ti's that I have in there. So I think it'll still hold up against Dan's PC. For the person who wins the giveaway and wins this PC, you are super lucky. I'm very jealous. I hope you feel all the love and the sweat that went into building this. You owe me a game of Apex Legends for sure.
Have you heard about Intel Gamer Days? Intel partnered up with over 40 top names in PC gaming to bring gamers like you huge deals and incredible giveaways. Now get a sneak peek at gamerdays.intel.com. And one more thing, guys. IGN is joining the party. All the Intel-powered PCs featured in this show are being given away to our viewers. So are you feeling lucky? Well, make sure to stick around at the very end of this show for details on how you can enter to win. Now, Stella, if there's one thing you wanted to convey to Bo to kind of send you over the edge and win this, what would it be?
I definitely wanted to show him that my PC is pretty, but it's also very functional.
We'll see. Dan, how about you?
When was the last time you saw a PC that you can see all the way through?
Let's go to Bo.
All right, so to start with, thank you for listening, because both of my contestants this time around, you really upped your RGB game, and that is exactly what I wanted to see in an extreme build. Because yeah, you can select whatever components you want, but if it doesn't look fantastic, what are you even doing? So let's talk about those components. For your graphics cards, you both went with dual RTX 2080 Ti's, which is frankly the best choice because you can't really go any higher than that. That is the tippy top of the tippy top. So in addition to going with the same graphics card loadout, y'all both picked the same CPU, the Intel Core i9-10900K processor, which is pretty much the top of the top there as well. But beyond that, you went a little bit of different directions. So Stella went with a higher end motherboard than Dan, which given the budget, I think was the right call. She also went with 64 gigs of RAM. Having said that, there was definitely an area where Dan took the edge. In the aesthetics category, Dan went with a very avant-garde open air case, and it really looks pretty fantastic. Now I did have to dock Stella a few points in the aesthetic category because while I do love the case she went with, it has tempered glass panels on every side, which means you really need to be pristine with your cable management, and there was a few areas that were just a little bit sloppy. And for probably the most important category, let's take a look at the benchmarks and thermals. Now it's worth mentioning both Optane drives had similar results when it came down to the Crystal Diskmark random 4KB test at Q-Depth 1. Both drives scored over 200 megabytes per second for read and around 192 megabytes per second for write. You can compare that to the 1TB Samsung 970 EVO Plus, which scored around 50 megabytes per second read and around 150 megabytes per second write. Now if some of you at home are wondering what all that means, it basically tells us that these Optane drives excel when a bunch of random tiny files are thrown at them during general operating tasks or when you're gaming. In 3D Mark Time Spy Extreme, which we ran at 4K resolution, Stella's machine had a benchmark score of 10,766, while Dan's won the round with a score of 10,962. In 3D Mark Port Royal, which was run at 1440p resolution, Stella's machine had a score of 15,639, while Dan's won the round with a score of 15,967. Stella won the Heaven benchmark with an FPS of 88.2 and a benchmark score of 2,221 over Dan's 86.8 FPS and benchmark score of 2,187. In PC Mark 10, Stella's machine came out very slightly on top with a score of 7,408 over Dan's 7,396. That's a difference of just 12 points on this PC Mark 10 benchmark. To measure thermal performance, we used Prime 95 to run the CPU at 100% for about a 2-minute test. During our test, Stella's machine stayed at around 60 degrees Celsius, peaking up to 67 degrees. Dan's machine, however, stayed around 58 degrees Celsius and only peaked up to 64 degrees. In other words, Dan's build kept its cool. Revisiting our Adobe Premiere Pro render test, where we took a 5-minute video file from our timeline intermixed with half 5K red code RAW footage and half H.264 footage, and then exported it both to 4K ProRes and 4K H.264 video files. Stella's machine exported the 5-minute video file to ProRes in 3 minutes and 11 seconds, and then to H.264 in 2 minutes and 14 seconds. Dan's build was slightly faster on the ProRes export with a time of 3 minutes and 7 seconds, but slightly slower exporting to H.264 with a time of 2 minutes and 16 seconds. Alright, but now it's time for the gaming benchmarks. For these tests, we ran everything at 4K resolution using the absolute highest available graphics preset. And in all 3 tests, Dan's machine came out on top. It was close, but he edged out a victory. In Assassin's Creed Odyssey, Stella's machine benchmarked at 47 FPS, while Dan's had an average of 49. In Metro Exodus, a super demanding benchmark, Stella's machine had an FPS score of 22, while Dan's did it at an average of 24 FPS. And in Borderlands 3, Stella's rig had a score of 37 FPS, while Dan's edged it out with a score of 38. Now let's not forget that when ordering her parts, Stella actually ordered the wrong SLI bridge, so we had to order one for her in order to properly benchmark this machine. Definitely something that I'm going to take into consideration when coming to my verdict. So, taking all of that into account, the winner is... Dan.
Woo!
Oh my God, Dan.
Now, well, Dan, how do you feel? You just won on a $7,000 rig, man.
You can spend a lot of money, but it won't necessarily give you returns in specifically gaming performance. 64 gigs of RAM is, future-proofing the heck out of it, but if a game only has so much stuff it's going to load into that RAM, then it's not going to make it go any faster. I personally am extremely jealous of whoever gets to take both of these machines home, because they're both super powerful and put mine to shame, frankly.
Well, there it is, everyone. It was a close one, but Dan took the win. But it's not over just yet. The moment I'm sure you've all been waiting for. Here's the intel on how to enter to win the machines featured in this episode. Simply follow the link below to learn more on how to enter. Now, which PC would you have picked? Leave a comment down below, and if you have any ideas for future builds, let us know. Thank you so much to Intel Gamer Days for making this all possible, and for all things PC gaming, keep it locked to IGN.